Innovation Insights. I'm Gina Domanig from Emerald here at the European Venture Fair. Today's topic is going to be corporate startup collaboration, and I have the pleasure of having Barbara Berger, President of Chevron Technology Ventures, with me here today. Welcome, Barbara.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to come to the European Venture Fair and to sit down and talk with you.
Great. Today we want to talk about the relationship between corporates and startups. We all know that corporates are looking at startups to bring in innovation into their companies. Startups need people like you to access the markets. They can't access them on their own. Yet, over 50% of the corporates and the startups report that they are unhappy with the relationships. What do you think is the problem?
Well, let's start first with the two players involved. It's really important that corporates and startups work together. They couldn't be more different. I like to think of them as the people who work in the big buildings and the people that work in the small buildings. The time horizons they're working on are very different. One of them has a base business that they're pretty focused on. One of them doesn't have a base business. One has a balance sheet, one doesn't. So they're really different. So they've got to find ways to meet in the middle. My organization, which we've been in existence for about 20 years, we actually think a lot about that, not just the investment side, but how do you actually get this innovation that really looks to address problems that we have? How do you get it to scale inside your company? And I think it's a tough nut to crack, particularly for transformative technology, but you know, we do the difficult.
Do you think that the startups are actually over-optimistic about how mature their technology actually is when they come to you and say, please pilot my technology?
Oh, Gina, of course. I think a startup CEO must have to get out of bed every morning and just be so optimistic. I mean, otherwise, how do you have that focus? Timing is everything, and you mentioned, time to do a trial. You can get out in front of your skis on that one, and it's not good for the startup, it's not good for the corporation. And so, we've developed specific capability within Tech Ventures to, in fact, figure out when's the right time to trial, how do you trial, what questions are you asking, and at the highest level they are, does this thing work and will it add value to the company? And that second one's really important because it can work, and yet it's still really not going to add value to us. And we actually take hold of that trial and then figure out if it does work and it adds value, how do we scale it? We tend to think of the startups as as their challenges around scaling, and I call that supply scale. But we got to scale the demand too, and the corporation plays a role in that. And so we think a lot about, so how would we get this into the company on not just a trial basis, because that doesn't make anybody any money, but on a much larger scale.
And do you ring fence that trial so that in case it's not successful the first time, so that you're still able to maybe have a second or third trial without the people within the corporation saying, did you hear about that didn't work, we're not going to touch it?
That's a really hard piece, and we've had both success and failure in that area. So I have a part of my organization that really works with the mothership, as I call it, the business units within Chevron, and looks for people that have the mindset and understanding of what a trial means. But then it's really important to push back and not do the trial until it's ready. We also look for what are the other ways you can try this thing? Because if what you want to figure out is whether it works, can you do it in a somewhat controlled environment first? We do a lot of digital work that way because we learned if you take it out to the field and it doesn't pass all our architecture reviews, our cyber reviews, all those things, it's going to fall flat. Right. So we create little sandboxes and playgrounds to try things in a controlled way so you don't do the big flub at first.
That's a great idea.
Because you're dealing with people.
Right. So I'm a VC. I sit on the boards. You know how it is being on these boards. We have quite a bit of influence in what we can suggest to our entrepreneurs. And a lot of them are actually going out there elephant hunting, hoping to land a big purchase order from somebody like a Chevron. What would you suggest to the VCs? What should we be doing differently on these boards to make sure that our companies really are ready to have a successful trial?
So again, CEOs, optimistic, they got to be that way. Make sure that they have the information from a potential customer on what are they really looking for, what are they not looking for, how does it get into the company, where are the purchasing decisions made, who's going to influence, all those pieces. And that's the role that the strategic investors can play or advisors can play for these companies. We have our own investments, and one of the key things we do is we find an innovation, and we're actually the biggest cheerleader. We want it to work, but we also want to know, what's it going to take for our business to replace what we're doing with that. So is it better than what they're currently using? Is it better than anything else out there? And what's going to be involved in making that change? Is it worth it?
That's a great reality check. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you being here at the event and also taking some time to talk to us about a really important topic. Hopefully, next time we talk, the success rate will be higher than 50%.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.